questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
The Prime Minister has informed us that he doubled national debt so that Canadians would not have to add to their own debt. But now we've learned that after 8 years of this Prime Minister, Canadian families spend a higher percentage of their family budget on debt servicing. This is a record in Canada, the higher percentage than US family debt before the 2008 crisis. Will the Prime Minister finally invert his inflationary taxes and deficits so that Canadians can finally eat and house themselves? Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives continue to denigrate the Canadian economy. I would like to take the opportunity on my end to remind them of some of the results of our economic plan. For example, our GDP is now at 4.1% higher than pre-pandemic levels. More than 1.1 million net new jobs have been created since the beginning of the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, you can't get these results with simple slogans. Our economic plan works, and the results show that this is true. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the economy has contracted per capita over 5 quarters. Our economy is smaller per capita than 5 years ago after 8 years of this Prime Minister. It is simply not worth the cost for housing. The Bank of Canada has stated that housing costs are now worse than at its worst 41 years ago, and rent goes up faster than ever before in history. When will the Prime Minister stop inflating taxes and bureaucracy so that we can finally start building affordable houses? The Honourable Minister for Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Leader of the Opposition, but Mr. Speaker, for the Canadians watching us at home today, there is one thing that the Leader of the Opposition hasn't mentioned, is that Canada is the 3rd globally when it comes to foreign investment, behind the United States and Brazil. Record investments like Norvolt in Quebec, Volkswagen investments in St. Thomas, Stellantis in Windsor, BHP in Saskatchewan, Darfur in Saskatchewan as well. We have a plan for a 21st century green economy, and that's how we'll create jobs for the generations to come.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
We already knew that the Prime Minister is not worth the price of food after 8 years of inflation. But yesterday he couldn't answer how a mushroom farm in my riding is supposed to pay its $100,000 carbon tax bill. Well, he did send the farm a Christmas present, a new bill. This is the November 9th to December 6th bill. Federal carbon tax, $16,050 for 1 month. And it's not even winter yet, Mr. Speaker. How would the Prime Minister like this farm to pay this $16,000 monthly bill? Raise food prices?
I also have to warn people about using props in the House. The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very happy to be I was in Dubai.
Well, I'm going to allow the Honourable Minister to start from scratch. The Honourable Minister of Environment.
I was in Dubai at COP28 in good company, Mr. Speaker, with the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, with the Premier of Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, with representatives from almost all the Canadian provinces and business leaders from all across the country, Mr. Speaker, working to ensure that our kids and grandkids have a future, something, unfortunately, that the Conservatives fail to understand.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this is more high-flying high-cost, high-tax hypocrisy from the Minister of Carbon Taxes. We learned that he spent $150,000 on one weekend of travel and charged it to taxpayers. Isn't it interesting that that's exactly how much they're charging the Carleton Mushroom Farm in carbon taxes for a year? So, can the minister please tell us, the Carleton Mushroom Farms is going to spend this year now about $150,000 grand on carbon taxes. Will that just pay for one of his junkets?
I also have to remind members just to use the proper names of the ministers. The Honourable Minister.
In reference to hypocrisy, Mr. Speaker, I refer back to Neville Chamberlain when he referred to Czechoslovakia's invasion by Nazi Germany. And in that, he referred to Czechoslovakia as a faraway land. And in reply to that, Sir Winston Churchill gave one of his greatest speeches. He gave a speech of impunity that Roy Jenkins said was one of his greatest, calling him an absolute coward, a capitulator. We should learn from such great men, not just about hypocrisy, but by keeping our solemn oaths to freedom and democracy in this world.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, for this Prime Minister to pass himself off as Winston Churchill after he gave detonators for mines to the Russian military so that they could use them against Ukrainians, after he allowed the Iranian-linked IRGC to operate legally in Canada, 700 of its agents, by the way, which are also linked to Russia, operating in our country and terrorizing our people. Mr. Speaker, this is not Churchillian. This is hypocritical political grandstanding by a Prime Minister trying to distract from his failed carbon tax.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there's another great Englishman who would say to the Leader of the Opposition, "Thou doth protest too much, I believe." And I would ask if any of those members have the courage of their conviction to stand up to the bullying that the Leader of the Opposition is imposing on them. In fact, there is one. The member from Lethbridge is the only Conservative MP who voted in favour of the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement on Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, I would ask, are there any other Conservative members who have the courage of their conviction to stand up for freedom, democracy, and against the bullying of the Conservative?
The Honourable Member Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec government has been very clear with regards to dental insurance. The Quebec Minister for Canadian Affairs stated as follows: Quebec is prepared to negotiate an agreement with the federal government to improve its plan whilst respecting fields of jurisdiction. In other words, if Ottawa transfers the money, it will be used for dental care pursuant to our priorities. But Ottawa prefers to give the money to a private company rather than to the public health care plan that has the expertise. Why choose Sun Life over Quebec? Why prioritize the private sector over the public sector when it comes to health care? The Honourable Minister for Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our choice is clear. Our choice is one of dental care from coast to coast to coast for all, for every province, for every territory. Currently, 9 million people did not have access to dental care. And now, with our new dental insurance system, everyone will have access to it in every neighbourhood and every corner of our country, and that is what is essential, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, we are waiting for this government to improve employment insurance, but it continues to twiddle its thumbs. We expect it to settle once and for all the Phoenix fiasco, but once again, paying or ensuring workers under its responsibility seems to be too much to ask. We expect the government to pay for asylum seekers, but radio silent on that front as well. On the other hand, the government's always up for a little interference in Quebec's jurisdictions. Instead of creating a private dental plan, will the government come to an agreement with the government of Quebec and transfer the money to it so that it can improve its own public plan? The Honourable Minister for Health. Mr. Speaker, we will of course be working not only with the province of Quebec, but every province and territory to make sure that everyone can obtain the necessary dental care that they need. And that is our objective. We will be working with all provinces throughout the country, this in order to meet this objective.
The honourable member for North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, families are having to take turkey off their Christmas dinner menu because of sky-high food costs. And what are the Liberals doing? Letting their grocery CEO friends off the hook. While the corporate Conservatives, they just want to block a national school food program to feed our kids.
Shame.
Both have lost the holiday spirit. What does the minister have to say to Canadians who are cutting back this Christmas because he won't stand up to CEOs?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
I'd like to thank the member for her question, but I wish she would be in the meeting, Mr. Speaker. She would have said that we are the first government in history to stand up to the CEOs of the grocery sector in this country, Mr. Speaker. For the first time in history, they can yell as much as they want, Mr. Speaker. But one thing that we've done, we called them in Ottawa to express the frustration of millions of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We asked them to do their part. We talked to the large manufacturers, and Mr. Speaker, with the reform on competition, with the grocery code of conduct, with more information to consumer, we're going to help stabilize price in this country.
The honourable member for Cowichan Malahat Langford.
Mr. Speaker, that minister would have a starring role in Oliver Twist. Please, sir, can I have some more? With holidays around the corner, parents are being forced to choose between family dinner or gifts for their kids. But you know who's not worried? Canada's grocery CEOs who are gifting themselves Christmas bonuses. The Liberals continue letting corporate greed go unchecked. Meanwhile, the Conservatives play the part of Scrooge as they just voted against a national school food program. Mr. Speaker, will the minister start cracking down on corporate price gouging, or will he let these CEOs continue going unchecked?
Please, sir. The Honourable Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry.
I'd like to thank the member for suggesting other career that I could pursue, but one thing that I will do, Mr. Speaker, is always fight for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. It's always a good day to fight for Canadians. That's what I've done with the CEOs, Mr. Speaker. That's what we will continue. But if he wants to do something to help Canadians, help us to put pressure to have a grocery code of conduct in this country, Mr. Speaker. If you talk to the independent grocers in this country, that's one of the best ways to stabilize prices, have more transparency, and make sure the small and medium-sized producer would have more equity in their negotiation with the large grocer, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the media reports that demand at the Bouchée Généreuse food bank in Quebec City has doubled in the past 2 years. A Canada where people go hungry, that will be the legacy of this Liberal government after 8 years of governance. And the leader of the Bloc Québécois, who takes the liberty of insulting other party leaders and who claims to represent Quebec, is calling for a radical tax increase, insult to injury. Will the Prime Minister follow our common sense plan and eliminate inflationary taxes and deficits so that Quebecers can finally eat? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know full well that it is our Liberal government that is here with measures to support Canadians. I believe that Canadians see through this false discourse from the Conservatives. Why? Because but a few days ago, Conservatives voted against a national food plan. Were they really to care for Canadians, they would have not voted against their interests. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, what Canadians and Quebecers know is that Christmas is on its way. They know that they don't have enough money to buy food. so they don't have any money to buy their presents. That's what Canadians have understood after 8 years of this Liberal governance. And on the other hand, we have our friends from the Bloc. The Bloc Québécois is demanding a radical increase on the tax on food. Is there anyone in this House that understands that after a while, we've had enough of taxes? Can the government commit to cancelling its inflationary taxes so that people can eat and have a good and Merry Christmas? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
That member, who was himself a member of the armed forces, that last week he and his party voted against military aid to Ukraine, compensation to the Canadian Armed Forces. And on the subject of Ukraine, let me clarify all of the billion-dollar aid that we have provided to Ukraine, Mr. Speaker. Carl Gustav anti-tank weapon systems, 155mm ammunition, armored vehicles, Mr. Speaker. We have trained over 40,000 members of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and we will stand on the side of democracy every single time.
The honourable member for Cardston, Medicine Hat, Warner.
Close, Mr. Speaker. Quattro Farms near Bow Island grows spearmint, peppermint, and dill, then distills those crops into essential oils. The 10-week harvest and distillation process this fall alone cost them $107,000 in carbon taxes. And that carbon tax will rise to well over $400,000 when this government quadruples it. How does the Prime Minister suggest Quattro Farms pay this $400,000? Will it be by raising prices on Canadians, or should Quattro Farms cut back on their production so Canadians are forced to import their food from polluting foreign farms?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate my honourable colleague's question, but when it came to action, my honourable colleague and the Conservative Party of Canada voted against every program that would support agriculture. Mr. Speaker, it's a shame. Talking to agricultural producers right across the country, they cannot understand why a government, why an opposition would vote against On-Farm Climate Action Fund, a fund to help farmers adapt to climate change, which adds to the price of groceries.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Carson Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reason we voted against them is we voted non-confident in this government's attack.
Non-confidence. Send them packing.
Medicine Hat area is home to numerous greenhouse operations like Big Marble Farms, who grow fresh vegetables like cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes. This year alone, Big Marble Farms will pay over $500,000 in carbon tax, and that'll rise over $2 million when this government quadruples it. How does the Prime Minister suggest Big Marble pay this extra $2 million? Will they raise the prices on Canadians, or should Big Marble cut back on their production so Canadians are forced to import their food from foreign polluting farms?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Being a farmer and talking to farmers across the country, they cannot understand why the opposition party would vote against so many programs that assist agriculture across the country. But also, farmers find it very, very disappointing and cannot believe that you would vote against support for the Ukraine, to support for democracy. They were ashamed.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Unlike that minister, I actually spoke to farmers from Dufferin today, and one farmer from Burnett Farms is going to pay $40,000 in carbon taxes this year alone. And after this incompetent Liberal NDP government quadruples the tax, it will be $160,000. They don't need another government program. They need the carbon tax cut. So, how is this farmer supposed to pay for it? Cut production, or so they have to import food from foreign polluting farms?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What many Canadians are puzzled with is the fact that in the age of climate change, where the impacts of climate change are costing our farmers hundreds of millions of dollars every year, the Conservatives have nothing to say to them. No plans to support them in the transition that will be necessary, Mr. Speaker, to be in the 21st century, to continue being a provider of food for Canada and the world. The Conservatives have no plan to help our farmers, no plan to fight climate change, and no plan to support the future of our kids and grandkids.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
With that statement, this radical carbon tax loving environment minister has basically proven the point. His carbon tax hasn't stopped any of the effects on farms, but instead, farmers are left paying this punishing carbon tax. A chicken farm pays $15,000 for one barn this year in carbon tax. Wow. And after this ideologically obsessed minister quadruples the carbon tax, it'll be $60,000 for one chicken farm. What is this farmer supposed to do to pay it? Raise prices or force Canadians to import their food from polluting foreign farms?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Ironic, Mr. Speaker, coming from a party that voted against supporting chicken farms just last week, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, is it radical to be in favor of fighting for the future of our kids and grandkids? No. I don't think so. Is it radical to ensure that we invest in jobs of the 21st century in our communities across the country? I don't think so, Mr. Speaker. No. What is radical is to ignore one of the world's most defining issues of our time and have nothing to say about climate change. This is unacceptable. This is immoral, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lac Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The federal government owes Quebecers $460 million for the reception of asylum seekers, a federal jurisdiction. But the federal government doesn't want to pay and has even the arrogance to bluntly repeat that it's not an ATM. Except that's our money that's withheld in that ATM, not theirs. It's taxpayers' money, most of it, money from Quebec taxpayers. We are entitled to that money. So there's a big problem. The ATM is out of order and we can't get our money out of it. Will the Minister for Finance thank Quebecers for their generosity and pay back what it owes to them? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With more than 100 million people displaced throughout the world, we see many refugees throughout the world. The migrant crisis is global, and we are part of it. The Minister for Immigration is in discussions, and I'm sure that discussions with Quebec will go well. We recognise that Quebec has done its share, and we are here to help to contribute. We've transferred up to $450 million just for housing, just to house asylum seekers, so I'm sure that we'll get to it. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that the Minister for Finance is in discussions with Quebec on the repayment of the $460 million for asylum seekers. We'd like to remind her that this money is not her money. It's taxpayers' money, especially Quebec taxpayers' money. But above all, the issue is that when the federal government foots a bill, Quebecers pay their fair share. But when Quebec foots a bill, Quebecers pay 100% of it. We offer 100% of services, we pay 100% of the bill. The federal government offers no services and doesn't pay a cent. That's clearly not a fair system. Will the Minister for Finance reimburse Quebecers? The Honourable Minister for National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, the Minister for Immigration is in discussion with the Quebec counterpart. We are significantly contributing to this, $700 million a year, to welcome immigrants in Quebec, $450 million over the past few years, just for housing refugees. What I would like to say to asylum seekers is that we offer provisional medical care, we accelerate the treatment, the processing of files, we facilitate access to work visas. So yes, we are doing our job. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Well, Quebecers welcome half of all asylum seekers in Canada. That's much more than our fair share. And it's Quebecers that foot 100% of this bill. Again, that is far more than our fair share, almost 5 times more. We will continue to do what we do best. We'll continue to be a welcoming nation, but we are not going to sit idly by and accept that we are the only ones doing our fair share and the only ones being hospitable. Will the Minister for Finance pay back the $460 million she owes Quebecers? The Honourable Minister for the National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I have full confidence in discussions between our governments. Quebecers have been very welcoming and hospitable, and we've worked together very well. We've transferred $450 million for housing refugees. We offer provisional medical care. We accelerate the processing times for the files, and we have made it easier to get a work visa. I'm very confident we will reach an agreement.
For Haldeman Norfolk.
After 8 years of this Liberal NDP government, farmers are struggling under the weight of this punishing carbon tax. Karen, a chicken farmer from Norfolk, pays $350 every month in carbon taxes. When the Liberals quadruple the carbon taxes, she will be paying $1,400 a month. Will this Prime Minister tell farmers like Karen how she's going to pay for the carbon tax hike? Should she charge Canadians more for food, or should she produce less so that Canadians will be forced to import food from polluting foreign farms?
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Again, Mr. Speaker, it's a bit rich to hear them talk about the support for farmers when they voted against support for farmers just last week. As we support farmers to transition so that they can reduce their dependencies on fossil fuel, they can become more competitive in Canada and around the world. What are they doing? They're voting against it, Mr. Speaker. They say they're in favor of farmers, but unfortunately, their record speaks the opposite. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Quadrupling the carbon taxes has very serious consequences. Karen deserves answers about how she's going to pay that $1,400 a month hike in carbon taxes. The Prime Minister said that farmers are working hard to protect the environment, but instead of rewarding them, the Liberal NDP government is taxing them into the ground. Does this Prime Minister expect farmers like Karen to charge more, or should she produce less so that Canadians will be forced to import food from polluting foreign farms?
More expensive food.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Speaker, and of course we know the Conservatives voted against farmers. They voted against taking action on climate change, but they have also voted against dental care. That's 9 million people, Mr. Speaker, who they don't want to have access to dental care. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of seniors who they're saying are not going to be able to get dentures replaced if they were in government. They're talking about more than 1 million kids that they would say no, they can't get critical dental care because they want to vote against it. Their real agenda, Mr. Speaker, is cuts. When you look through the slogans, that's all that's there.
Cuts.
You're going to pay for it.
The Honourable Member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, what we did was vote non-confidence in that government that needs to be replaced. After 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, Canadians from coast to coast are desperate for relief. A potato farming couple from Grand Sault has seen their freight cost alone rise over $300,000 a year due to the implementation of the carbon tax. Now these Liberals plan to quadruple it, which would cost them $1.2 million more in freight charges alone a year. How will the Prime Minister advise them to pay for this additional $1.2 million? Will it be by raising prices on Canadians, or should this farmer cut back on production so Canadians are forced to import food from polluting foreign nations?
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Mr. Speaker, I think the rest of us, at least on this side of the House, can see what's happening here. I think if we can see what's happening here, those weren't votes against government programs. Those were all just non-confident votes. We didn't mean that. We didn't mean any of that.
I'm just waiting for a point where the Honourable Minister can respond. The Honourable Minister of Labour.
They think that what they just did there is all you have to do. It's not. What we do here is vote on the things. You voted against all the things. We've taken them all, and we will be using them in ads, in answers to questions, talking to our constituents on each and every one of them. We will, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to clarify.
The Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Mr. Speaker, thanks to the NDP, a public inquiry has been called by this government into serious allegations of foreign interference. The inquiry needs to investigate the Indian government that allegedly ran a global assassination program that targeted and murdered a Canadian on Canadian soil. Other deeply concerning allegations have come up as well. Does the minister agree with the NDP that the public inquiry should also investigate interference from the Modi government, including in the recent Conservative leadership campaign?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Prime Minister told this House, this is an extremely serious matter. The safety of Canadians and the integrity of our rule of law is of fundamental importance. Law enforcement, including the RCMP intelligence agencies, continue to investigate in close collaboration with their U.S. counterparts. We expect the Government of India to cooperate fully with this investigation. As it is an active investigation, we will not comment further. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the Environment Minister told our committee that, quote, we need to pick up the pace when it comes to fighting climate change. Now, notably, this is from the minister that is responsible for the pace in fighting climate change. At COP28, the world called for a rapid move away from fossil fuels. Yet here at home, fossil fuel emissions are rising, the industry is expanding, and this minister's key policy, the emissions cap, won't come into effect until 2026. That is far too slow. Everyone knows it. What will the minister do to pick up the pace?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's refreshing to have a question on the reality and the importance of climate change at this House, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Honourable member for it. In fact, we are picking up the pace, Mr. Speaker. When we came into power in 2015, emissions were going through the roof, and now we've been able to reduce emissions levels 7% below 2005 level. That's like removing more than 20 million cars in terms of climate change pollution from our roads. We know we have more to do, and that's why in the last year alone we've introduced 6 new pieces of regulations to ensure that Canada reaches our target in 2030. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Indigenous people living in urban, rural, and northern areas face unique challenges accessing adequate housing and do not qualify for support that is provided to Indigenous people living on reserve. Through budgets 22 and 23, the government is committed to the co-development of a dedicated urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing strategy to address these gaps. Just last week, the House considered funding for this strategy. That is something that the Conservative leader voted to cut. Can the Minister of Indigenous Services tell us how this funding will be used to address the housing challenges facing Indigenous people in urban, rural, and northern areas? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Speaker, and I want to thank the member from Winnipeg South Centre. Last week it was shameful to see the Conservative Party members get up all night long and vote against all of the things that Indigenous people need, like health care and education and housing. And while they play games with people's lives, Mr. Speaker, on this side, we're hard at work. And that's why it was so exciting to announce the next steps towards rolling out a historic $4.3 billion towards by Indigenous for Indigenous housing. And Mr. Speaker, that's what working for Canadians looks like.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Peterborough Kawartha.
Haas Acres has been operating their family farm since 1930. They farm about 2,000 acres, and this year they will pay $10,000 in carbon tax, which will quadruple to $40,000. Now, that may not seem like a lot to this Prime Minister and his trust fund, but it's a lot to the Haas family. So my question is, will the Prime Minister call Brian Haas? Will he explain to him how he expects him to pay this extra $40,000? Should he raise prices on Canadians, or should he cut production so that Canadians are forced to import food from foreign polluting farms?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, just a few days ago, Conservative members voted against the interests of farmers. Just a few days ago, they also voted against measures to promote women's participation in the economy, against free menstrual products, Mr. Speaker, against funding for sexual misconduct investigation, and against subsidizing childcare. Mr. Speaker, what do the Conservatives have against measures that support women?
Good question. The Honourable Member for Peterborough Kawartha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. classic Liberal deflection. When they are down, they will deflect at every fact they can. These are the facts. Under this Prime Minister, housing prices have doubled. Under this Prime Minister, food bank usage is the highest in history. On the OECD, we rank 35 out of 38 in teen mental health. Suicide. Suicide. And who feeds families? Farmers. Who are they cutting? Farmers. So, Mr. Speaker, again, I will ask, will they axe the tax and make life affordable? And the jig is up. Everybody knows they are not telling the truth.
Okay, this is my disappointed face. And we can't say whether someone's been telling the truth or not telling. Let's be careful on that stuff. The honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If they want to talk about deflection, it's because they don't want to talk about the vote that they took against the Canada-Ukraine free trade agreement, Mr. Speaker. There's only one member on the other side who's had the courage of her convictions to stand up to the bullying, MAGA style of their leader, and that's the member from Lethbridge. I heard a lot of members try to say that they support Ukraine over the past couple of days, but actions speak louder than words, Mr. Speaker. Just a couple of days ago, they voted against Canada's NATO mission in Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, they don't need to stop deflecting. They should be honest with Canadians about why they're not supporting Ukraine. Is it because there are several members that are MAGA-style conservatives? It's a question Canadians need to ask. Thank you, Mr.
Apparently there's no interpretation.
Oh, it's my friend from Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's embarrassing deflection from the party that sent a gas turbine back to Russia that is funding Putin's war. Absolutely embarrassing for those Liberals. They have so much to answer for and how they have abandoned Ukraine where it counts. Now, Mr. Speaker, Darren is a turkey farmer that I spoke to today. Pays $30,000 in the last year in the carbon tax. By the time it's quadrupled, it will be almost 120 grand. Mr. Speaker, my question to those Liberals is simple. Do they expect him to raise costs or to cut back production so that Canadians are forced to import food from polluting foreign jurisdictions?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to food security, we always have to remember that the breadbasket of the world is a country called Ukraine. And I'm going to use the title of that country deliberately, because when you can't...
Order. 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 Folks, colleagues, order. Large. Thank you. Je pense qu'il y a un problème de traduction.
I think there's a translation problem. They can't hear the honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you, we've hit our limit. When interpreters tell you 3 times in a row that there's too much noise to interpret and that they're getting hurt, it's time to stop. This is our last day. Let's be adults.
Un petit rappel qu'on essaie.
Quick reminder, we're almost done.
To keep the temperature down just a little bit so we can get through this. The interpretation is a challenge, a lot of cases when there's lots of noise in the chamber. The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General, 21 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, I use the term Ukraine deliberately because when I hear somebody who aspires to lead this nation incapable of saying the term Ukraine and calling that nation that is fighting for its very existence a faraway foreign land, I find that not just disrespectful to our ally, I find that actually immoral. And we on this side of the House will stand by Ukraine.
The Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, how embarrassing. This week they abandoned Israel at the United Nations, and that member should know that it is Canadian detonators that are ending up in the fields of Ukrainian farmers. They should be absolutely embarrassed and ashamed of themselves for abandoning the farmers of Ukraine. And Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the cost that Canadian farmers are paying for the carbon tax, Mr. Speaker, here's the reality. For Darren, it's 120 grand that he has to recoup somehow. This is an uncomfortable question because high prices are a feature, not a flaw of the carbon tax. Mr. Speaker, how do they expect Darren to pay the bills?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the member mentioned Ukraine. It was shameful to see Conservative MPs attempt not once but 5 times to silence the MP from Etobicoke Centre when they pointed out the Conservative voting record against supporting Ukraine. Former Conservative Cabinet Minister Peter Kent...
Order. You know, we're just about 3 o'clock, and the more we attack one another, the louder it's going to get in here. So I would just suggest that everybody bring it down a notch. Christmas is coming. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. From the top.
Mr. Speaker, former Conservative Cabinet Minister Peter Kemp put it in this way, and I quote, "When partisan politics trumps principled unity and support for a valiant democracy," he was referring to the Conservative record voting against Ukraine and free trade. No amount of doublespeak or empty talking points will change that, Mr. Speaker.
2023 was a miserable year for farmers. Higher interest rates, higher input costs, floods, droughts, one misfortune after another. And the federal government is abandoning them. Ottawa doesn't even invest 5% of the value of farm production into agriculture, which is 4 times less than in Europe. We need an emergency fund for struggling farmers now. We've been saying it for months. Canada also needs to climb up from the bottom of the world's agricultural investment rankings. When will this government finally support our farmers? The Honourable Minister for Agriculture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I did meet with my honourable colleague yesterday. I fully understand the concern he has. But the program is under what they call the Business Risk Program, which is put together by the federal government and the provincial government and the territories. And the guidelines are put in place. Anything I can do to help, as I said yesterday to my honourable colleague, anything I can do to help the farmers in Quebec, I will do. But there are guidelines to follow.
2023 was a miserable year for our farmers. However, there's already an easy way to make 2024 a better year. The federal government can extend the January 18 deadline to repay the emergency account without loss of subsidy. It's an easy measure that would prevent farms from going bankrupt. It's an easy thing to do, and it would be such a relief to farmers who are working their fingers to the bone and who are still walking a tightrope. So please, let's announce some good news before the holidays. Will the government finally extend the January 18 deadline? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to the emergency business account, during COVID, our government was there to support businesses with wage subsidies, rent subsidies, and the emergency account. Now, when it comes to repaying that emergency account, Plan A, they have the money. They pay it back. And they get a certain amount forgiven. Plan B, they pay back some of it and get a certain amount of loan forgiveness. And then Plan C, they can stay with us for another 3 years and pay a 5% rate of interest.
Honourable member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Well, Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, the costs of food production are at an all-time high. The truckers who transport our grain, deliver the fertilizer and fuel farmers need, and haul our groceries to the store for Canadians to buy, pay the carbon tax but pass it along to the farmer and the consumer. A trucking company in Swift Current pays $20,000 per truck per year in carbon tax. Once the Prime Minister quadruples this cost to $80,000, how does he expect them to pay for this? Will it be raising prices on Canadians, or should our farmers cut back on production so we are forced to import food from polluting foreign farms?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the part that is actually quite incredible about the position taken by the Conservatives under their leader's guidance is that when you abandon Ukraine, you're not just abandoning over 1 million Ukrainian Canadians here in Canada, you're abandoning countless of thousands or millions of other East Europeans that are also concerned with pushing back against against Russian authoritarianism. Who am I talking about, Mr. Speaker?
He's bringing disorder to the House by not answering the question.
The honourable member, just the honourable minister, 10 seconds in the response. I just want to make sure people keep it down so that the translators can hear what they're translating. The honourable minister of justice.
From the top, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you're abandoning East European Canadians. You're abandoning Polish Canadians, Baltic Canadians, all of whom have a vested interest in pushing up against Russian authoritarianism under Putin. I wish the Conservatives could show some support for that.
L'honorable député de Lévis-Lotbinière.
Monsieur le Président, on s'est fait.
Mr. Speaker, we've been had. After 8 years of Liberal incompetence, Canadians are sinking deeper and deeper into debt, hard hit by 8 interest rate hikes in 18 months. Canadians are spending over 9% of their disposable income on interest charges alone. How's that for a gift? When debt payments outpace growth of disposable income, will the costly Liberal Bloc NDP coalition ease the pressure on interest rates by eliminating the carbon tax and stop ruining the lives of Canadians? The Honourable Minister for Innovation. We will take no lessons from the Conservatives. Imagine the gift that Conservatives gave to Canadians. They voted against aerospace. They voted against supporting tourism. And they voted against the planes. Imagine how Conservative MPs from Quebec must feel knowing that they voted against the plains of Abraham. On this side of the House, we're going to fight for Canadians, fight for jobs, and fight for growth.
Gets quiet for a minute, it goes back up. I don't understand what's going on. L'honorable député de Lévis-Lotbinière.
Monsieur le Président, le plus...
Mr. Speaker, the best gift that Canadians could get in 2024 is a Conservative government. Canadians are sinking deeper every day with the costly Liberal Bloc NDP coalition. And Quebecers are also spending more than 9% of their disposable income on interest costs, proof that it's expensive to vote Bloc in Quebec. When will this government allow Canadians to choose their future? The choice is clear. A coalition that wants to radically raise taxes, or a good Conservative government that will put more money in the pockets of all Canadians. The Honourable Minister for Tourism. Mr. Speaker, the gift is from Conservatives through their work last week. The ideology of austerity and cuts from the Conservatives was clear. Cuts that will put a brake on Quebec's economic growth, specifically the tourism industry. How is it that the Conservatives from Quebec don't want to cut the program for promoting tourism in Quebec, but not elsewhere in the country? Apparently, the plains of Abraham are less important than the prairies. Apparently, small villages in Quebec are worth less than those outside Quebec. On this side of the House, we're fighting for all Quebecers, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
The honourable member for Brampton North.
Mr. Speaker, racism has no place in Canada and never will. This week, our government launched the renewed Multiculturalism and Anti-Racism Program and called for proposals to help organizations build capacity. This funding aims to help organizations have capacity to support their communities and foster inclusion. Can the minister explain what actions the government has taken to address systemic racism and discrimination and celebrate our diversity?
Best question today. The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is absolutely right. This week we launched the call for proposal for the renewed multiculturalism and anti-racism programs to help organizations build capacity. This is yet another example of our government's unwavering commitment to addressing racism and promoting a more inclusive Canada. But Mr. Speaker, I wish I could say the same thing about the Conservative Party of Canada, who voted against Canada's anti-racism strategy. And just last week, Mr. Speaker, they voted against funding for the new Montreal Holocaust Museum and the redevelopment of the Jewish Community Centre in Vancouver. It's shameful, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
House. The NDP Liberal government's billion-dollar green or greed slush fund is in a crisis of corruption. The CEO resigned in disgrace. The Liberal-appointed board chair resigned in disgrace. The Auditor General is investigating. The Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is investigating 2 Liberal appointees. And this week, we heard from whistleblowers that $150 million was embezzled by Liberal insiders. Canadians want to know, where did the missing millions go and who got rich?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, for Canadians watching at home, they're seeing the conservative ideology in full display, Mr. Speaker. These folks are so against climate change, Mr. Speaker, that they'll go after anyone and any organization that wants to fight climate change, even an organization that was voted 20 years ago by Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Now they want to attack the integrity of one of the most respected audit firm in this country, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we'll get to the bottom of this, but we'll keep investing in clean technology. We'll keep investing to fight climate change. We'll keep investing in Canadians.
The honourable member of Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Real Lakes.
Only Liberals would think shoveling hundreds of millions of dollars into the pockets of their friends is doing anything to fight climate change. They're under multiple investigation, and it's their appointees that are being investigated. It's absolutely despicable. Canadians are lined up at food banks in record numbers, and liberal grifters and embezzlers are jamming their pockets full of Canadians' tax dollars. Canadians want to know who got rich and where did the missing millions go. But, Mr. Speaker, with an Auditor General investigation and 2 Ethics Commissioners investigation, is the RCMP next?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I know it's Christmas. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts, Mr. Speaker. It is very clear and Canadian understand what you're seeing in full display in this House, Mr. Speaker, is the conservative ideology against anyone and any organization, even those created by Parliament, Mr. Speaker. What you're seeing there is the full display. Mr. Speaker, we launched an investigation. We suspended funding. The leadership has resigned. We'll get to the bottom of this. We'll restore confidence, but we'll keep investing to fight climate change in this country.
L'honorable député de Mégantic-L'Érable.
Monsieur le Président, après 8 ans,
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years, Liberal cronies continue to get rich at taxpayers' expense. The whistleblower's incredible testimony revealed that $150 million of taxpayer money was diverted from the Liberal Green Fund. The Ethics Commissioner opened 2 investigations, and the Auditor General is investigating as well. It doesn't take an ethics professor to figure out there's been a breach of ethics. And yet, the Bloc Québécois voted against broadening the scope of the Ethics Committee's investigation to shed light on corruption. Which Liberal cronies got rich, and when will Canadians get their money back? The Honourable Minister for Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for his question because right before Christmas, it allows me to remind Canadians watching about conservative ideology. Conservative ideology attacks any organization that would want to fight climate change. This institution was created 20 years ago by the House of Commons, and the Auditor General has significant investigative powers. We're going to continue to invest into Canadians and green technology.
St. Louis.
Our children and all Canadians deserve a safe and responsible sports system that reflects our Canadian values of equality, fairness, and inclusion. In other words, we need a system grounded in human rights, accountability, integrity, and safety. On Monday, the Minister of Sport and Physical Activity announced important measures that prioritize keeping our kids safe and keeping safe sport at the center of sport governance and operations. Among other things, she announced the Future of Sport in Canada Commission. Can the Minister share with this House details on the mandate of this commission?
Honourable Minister of Sport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank my honourable colleague for the question. Mr. Speaker, in the past 2 years, athlete survivors have bravely come forward to share their stories so that we can learn, so that we can make our processes more safe for our kids, and we can get to the point where we got, thanks to them on Monday, where we announced the Future of Sport Commission, a trauma-informed, victims' rights, human rights-based process where we're going to dig into safe sport and make the entire system better. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Churchill-Kawadanokaski.
Mr. Speaker, big tech companies like Amazon, Twitter, Uber make billions of dollars a year and don't pay what they owe to Canadians. The Liberals said they'd put a plan in place for a digital service tax by the end of this year, but they're delaying it. Canadians don't trust Liberals and Conservatives to make big tech corporations pay their fair share, and this at a time when so many Canadians are struggling. So, Mr. Speaker, will the government stand up for Canadians and implement a digital services tax, or will they bow down to American lobbyists?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is supportive of international efforts to end the corporate tax race to the bottom and ensure that the world's largest corporations do pay their fair share. Our priority, of course, has always been a multilateral approach, but we must defend our national interest, Mr. Speaker. We won't accept a delay to the implementation of our own digital services tax without a clear timeline for an implementation with our global partners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, despite evidence on the misuse of international aid by Hamas, Canada recently pledged $16.2 million to nonprofit organizations in the region, including $10 million to the UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, for its Palestinian programs. Mr. Speaker, how can Canada fund UNRWA when one of its own employees held an Israeli citizen hostage in Gaza? Hamas uses UNRWA buildings to launch rocket attacks. Over 100 Hamas terrorists attended UNRWA schools that teach anti-Semitism and Israel's elimination. Mr. Speaker, will Canada review its UNRWA funding and suspend it if the agency is found to comply in compliance with UN operational standards?
The Honourable Minister of International Development.
Speaker, I've had numerous meetings with the head of UNRWA, Mr. Lazzarini. The decision to cut funds during an unfolding humanitarian catastrophe is actually counterproductive and jeopardizes the delivery of essential food, medicine, and other life-saving materials to those who need it the most. In these crucial times, trusted agencies like UNRWA must receive more support, not less. And it's great to see the honourable member really use political points against vulnerable people in their time of need. I wish we had more compassion for members of this House like the honourable member.
And that's all the time for question period today.
Point of order, the honourable member for Drummond.